let us see our next topic, failures of classical wave theory. So what do you mean by this classical wave theory? First of all, let us understand that, and then we can go to the further continuation of this. So even until now we have discussed about the photoelectric effect and how it can be, what are the various factors, graphs, laws of photoelectric effect, all that, right? But still this particular photoelectric effect has been taken under the account of that electromagnetic wave radiation. That's it, right? For different wave radiations, how that will be of. But classical wave theory failed to explain some of the concepts relating the photoelectric effect. Out of them, the primary or the major are classical wave theory was failed to explain the relation of the maximum kinetic energy and intensity relation. Of course, even though they don't, but we'll look about that relation. What was that relation kind of? And the second one is it fails to explain threshold frequency. Third one, it fails to explain instantaneous nature. So all these three now we are going to discuss about one by one. So according to the wave theory, light is an electromagnetic wave consisting of electric and magnetic fields with continuous distribution of energy over the region over which the wave extends, which we have already seen in the electromagnetic waves chapter, such a way that electric and magnetic fields are mutually perpendicular direction, oscillating in mutual perpendicular direction, and the wave propagation will be perpendicular to both these fields. That's it, right? So there we discussed that electromagnetic wave like that and all. But this wave picture of light was unable to explain these features, whatever we are actually seeing now. So let's start from one by one, that starting one, relation of that. Okay, so according to the wave theory, when a wave strikes a metal surface, the free electrons at the surface absorb the radiant energy continuously. That's it, right? As soon as you continuously supply the energy, the electrons on the surface will absorb the energy continuously. Greater the intensity of incident radiation, greater the amplitudes of electric and magnetic fields, and greater is the energy density of the wave. Therefore, higher intensity should liberate photoelectrons with greater kinetic energy, isn't it or not? See, think from the perspective of wave picture of light, which means suppose if you have a metal surface, this is the metal surface, and if you are irradiating with some kind of continuously, so it contains both electric and magnetic fields. Greater the intensity refers to, what do you mean by intensity? Amount of energy per unit time per unit area perpendicular to the propagation of that. So greater the intensity refers to more energy density. That's it, right? Hence, the more you illuminate, the electrons which are inside this metal will also absorb them in a more rapid manner. Thus, according to the wave theory, if you increase intensity, photoelectron rate emission also should be, which means rate of electron emission also should increase if intensity is increased, which means higher intensity should liberate photoelectrons with greater kinetic energy also. But this is quite contradiction to the experimental result what we got. That's it, right? Maximum kinetic energy of the photoelectrons does not depend on intensity of incident radiation. We have already seen in the graphs, if you remember. That's it, right? Have you seen that or not? So first failure of this. So this is the first one. So it was unable to explain that. What we can simply to say that in a simple word. So coming to the practicality, the experimental result, which is nothing but maximum kinetic energy of photoelectrons does not depend on intensity of incident radiation, which I have already seen, stopping potential graphs and all. Okay, so that's the first failure. Coming to the second one, it fails to explain threshold frequency. Threshold frequency, what do you mean by this threshold frequency? The minimum frequency above which photoelectric effect can be observed. That's it, right? But according to the classical wave theory, if we consider wave theory, whatever may be the frequency of the incident radiation, a light of sufficient intensity should be able to impart enough energy, and thus it can eject the electrons from the metal surface. Therefore, this is not at all a valid situation. So, but have in the practicality, the photoelectric effect is only observable when the frequency crossed this threshold frequency. That's it, right? In the practicality. But according to the classical wave theory, whatever may be the frequency it is, if the sufficient energy is enough, then it should liberate the electrons. That's it, right? Even in the first situation also, that's what. So there is no concept of threshold frequency in the classical wave theory. That's it, right? So this is the second failure. Coming to the third one, instantaneous nature. So photoelectric effect is instantaneous. The moment when the incident, when the radiation falls on it, obviously the electrons are ejecting out of the metal plate. So that's what, right? Why the classical wave theory was unable to explain this means, energy of light wave is distributed across the advancing wave. That's it, right? In the form of electric field and the magnetic field, which are regenerating each other, and thus in a mutual perpendicular direction, and the wave is actually advancing mutually in perpendicular to both of this electric and magnetic fields. Therefore, each electron intercepts a very small amount of this energy, and therefore there must be a finite time for the is required for the electron to escape from the metal surface. That's it. No, there is an oscillation of the energy between the exchange of the electric field, magnetic field, conversions and all from one form to the another. But coming to that, here we don't have such kind, right? The moment when it falls, it is actually giving it out. So thus, coming to the practicality, there is no time lag. But according to the wave theory, it's showing some time lag. Thus, classical wave theory was unable to explain the emission, which is nothing but an instantaneous emission, which is nothing but. So instantaneous nature, it failed to explain. So what makes it to explain? So how can we explain this? Here comes the quantum theory. In your lower standards, you might have studied about this. Planck's quantum theory, Max Planck, who proposed the quantum nature of the light. That's it, right? So now we are going to discuss about that quantum nature, which is nothing but the photon picture of the light. Okay, so according to the quantum theory, light is nothing but is made up of packets of energy, which we call it as quanta, and that's what now we are going to speak about. Okay, so a packet or bundle of energy is nothing but photon, and the energy of the photon can be given as E equal to h nu, where h is the Planck's constant and nu is the frequency of radiation. And of course, nu can be also written as hc by lambda. Of course, nu equal to c by lambda, where c is the speed of the light, and light is nothing but the electromagnetic wave rate. Okay, and that's what it is. And lambda is the wavelength of the light. So in short, we can say that regarding the quantum, the energy changes will always takes place only in discontinuously and only discretely, always as integral multiples of a small amount of energy. So only a certain amount of discrete amount of, only in that particular way, as that too as an integral multiples of. So which means like there won't be like a 3.5, 2.5 like kind of, it will be always either 3, 4, 5 rounding of whole number kind of. So that discrete amount of alone will takes place in the simplest form or the smallest form of the unit of energy. And what we call that simplest or smallest form of that energy of the light, which we call it as quanta. Fraction of quanta do not enter. Remember, right? Remember that fraction of quanta, that's what now I told you, fraction of quanta do not enter into the energy exchanges. Are we clear with this? Now let's look about the properties of the photons, because just now we have seen, right, what that photon is nothing but it is a minimum, or you can call it as like a smallest of all the energy radiation, whatever we are actually speaking about. So made up of. So now let us describe the properties of the photons. A photon travels at a speed of light c in the vacuum, and that is nothing but 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second, and it has a rest mass 0. That is, photon cannot exist at rest. So photon can never exist at rest, it will be always in motion. And you can ask me that, sir, how you are actually stating that the rest mass of the photon is 0 when it is at the rest. Okay, for an example, as anyway we are stating that the photon travels at the speed of the light, right? So now do you remember the equation that in the gravitation we have seen this kind of equation, that m naught equal to m into square root of 1 minus v square by c square. In the gravitational mass condition we have seen this. Of course, on the relativity, when we speak about that, we'll get this m equal to m into square root of 1 minus v square by c square. What happens if the velocity of the body is equal to c? Because photon is traveling with speed of light, right? So it is c again. What happens with this? So m naught becomes 0. This is what we are speaking about. It has a rest mass 0. That means the photon cannot exist at rest. M naught is rest mass. This is the formula for rest mass. And while m is nothing but mass of the particular particle when it is in motion. So m naught is rest mass. So have we got that? Clear, right? Okay. Now kinetic mass of the photon, of course, from this m, which is nothing but E by c square, which we can write it as. And of course E is nothing but h nu. And again we have the formula, right? V equal to f lambda, velocity v equal to f lambda. Of course, as anyway the speed, which is nothing but the photon, will travel with the speed of light, right? So can I write it as c equal to f lambda? So c equal to f lambda, that's what I have substituted here, and upon cancellation we will get this h by c lambda. Momentum of the photon is p equal to E by c, which is h by lambda. Photon travels in a straight line path. There won't be any kind of zigzag or the variation. Okay, energy of a photon depends upon frequency of the photon. So energy of the photon does not change when photon travels from one medium to another. Remember, this is an important one. Energy of a photon depends on frequency. Higher the frequency and higher will be E equal to h nu, right? So that's what. Since if you want, you can make a note here. E equal to h nu. Energy of the photon depends only on frequency. So the energy of the photon does not change when photon travels from one medium to another. Higher the frequency, higher will be the energy. Okay, wavelength of the photon changes in different media. So velocity of photon is different in different media. Again from this we can write down c equal to f lambda, and that's what now we are going to speak about. Of course, h nu or hf or nu lambda, v equal to nu lambda or whatever frequency, whether f or nu, both are frequency alone. That I can substitute it in the place of frequency. I can write it as c by lambda or v by lambda, which is nothing but. So energy of a wavelength of the photon changes in different media. So velocity of a photon is different in different media. From that substitutions and all, which we can notice when you substitute this value, which is in the place of nu here. Of course, f or nu, both are same. Okay, coming to the next one, photons are electrically neutral. There won't be any charge for these photons. They are electrically neutral. Okay, photons may show diffraction under given conditions. So as we told, right, that photons travel in a straight line. So whenever, already these are a very small quantities of that. So whenever we place any small objects in their path, they cast a sharp shadow, and be at the edges of that particular objects, they will try to bend at that particular edge of the body, and thus that's what we call it as diffraction. The bending of the light ray at the edges of the objects is nothing but diffraction. Okay, so photons may show diffraction under given conditions. So it depends upon the nature of that particular wavelength of the light what we are actually using, nature of the body what we are using, and the distance between the object and the source whatever we have taken for that energy. Okay, photons are not deviated by magnetic and electric fields. Just now we have seen that, right? They are electrically neutral. Hence photons are not deviated by any of the electric and as well as magnetic fields. Are we getting the point here? Now let's look about one more property, which is nothing but the power of the source. So how can we write down that? So power, can I write down it to be as like n into E by T? So power equal to n into E by T. Can I write like this, where n is nothing but the number of photons? Can I write down that? Okay, so again E equal to h nu. So I am going to write it as n by t into h nu. Can I write down? Now again, in the place of nu, can I write it as c by lambda, which is n by t into h into c by lambda. Since because v equal to f lambda, so c equal to nu lambda. So from that, since because of, that's what I am substituting here in the place of nu, c by lambda. That's what I mentioned here. So can I write it as n by t into hc by lambda? Can I write down? N by t into hc by lambda, where n by t is nothing but number of photons emitted per second. N by t is nothing but number of photons emitted per second, and I told you that already. Okay, right. Now let's look about the next one, intensity. How can I write down intensity again? Intensity is nothing but amount of energy radiating per unit time per unit area. So can I write it as power by area? Can I write down? So already we got this. So n by t into E by A. Can I write down? Can I write down? And of course, upon all the simplification, just upon using the same, power is already NE by T, right? So by A, that's what I am doing here. So if you substitute this result here, N by T into what I can write down here, H into nu by A. Can I write down in the place of energy? Can I write down? That's it, right? We got n by t in the place of energy, hc by lambda, of course h nu by a of, that's what it is. Are we clear with this? Right. For a point source, if we substitute all this result from the same, and now for a point source, remember intensity is directly proportional to 1 by d square. Intensity is inversely proportional to. Okay, and remember d is the distance between source and the target. D equal to distance between source and target. In the wave optics, you will be very clear with this when we discuss about diffraction pattern. There you will understand what was the relation between the distance and intensity, wavelength and all. Okay, so you will get there in that particular chapter. Okay, so as anyway we have seen that, right? Photons will exhibit the diffraction pattern. That's what now here. Okay, let's look to the next one, which is nothing but Einstein's photoelectric equation. Basing on the quantum theory, Max Planck's quantum theory, Einstein in the year 1905 successfully explained the photoelectric effect, and thus he gave the mathematical proof, or you can call it as like an equation for the photoelectric effect. And for this work alone, Einstein has been awarded Nobel Prize. Most of us we think that E equal to mc square. No, Einstein got the Nobel Prize for this work, effect on his work on the photoelectric effect. Now let's look about the main points which we have to discuss in the Einstein's photoelectric effect, or you can call it as Einstein's theory of photoelectric effect. Okay, right. Suppose when we are using energy of radiation E, whenever we are using energy of radiation E, of course h nu, E equal to h nu, right? Quanta energy. Now for that, the photoelectric emission is the result of interaction of the two particles. He called that. Understand, slowly we are moving to the particle nature. Did you notice that? So now we are calling the light to be like a particle, since because we just now discussed about that, right? Photon and all. So that's why I am using the word, it's like a particle interaction. Okay, earlier we discussed about the wave nature. Now we are going to discuss about the particle nature. So the photoelectric emission is the result of interaction of two particles. One is a photon, which is nothing but of the incident radiation, and the other is nothing but the electron of the metal what we have taken there. Okay, the free electrons are bound within the metal due to their restraining forces on the surface. The minimum energy required to liberate an electron from the metal surface is called work function of the metal, which we have already defined earlier, and we know that already. So minimum amount of energy required. Okay, now when each photon interacts with one electron, each photon 1-to-1 correspondence, right? So when each photon corresponds with one electron, the energy h nu of the incident photon is used up in two parts. the entire energy what we have supplied here, which you can observe here. Can you see here? This H nu will be used in two ways. Okay, one is to overcome the surface barrier, which is nothing but to come out of that particular metal. Part of the energy of the photon is used in liberating the electron from the metal surface. And of course, what we call that minimum amount of energy required to remove the electron from the metal surface? Work function, right? So I am calling it denoting with phi, and sometimes you can represent this also with W naught. Sometimes we can also represent this work function to be as W naught work function, okay, or phi, whatever it is, right? Part of the energy, while the remaining energy of the photon is used in imparting kinetic energy to the ejected electron. You can notice here, so when you incident the photon here, part of the energy will be utilized to take out the electron to the surface. That's clear. While from there, the remaining part of the energy of this photon will be utilized to impart to its maximum kinetic energy. Are we clear with this? And a very few number of photons, that is almost less than 1% of the total number of the photons which we are going to incident on the plate, whose energies are greater than the work naught, are capable of ejecting the photoelectrons. So very less percentage of directly they will, okay, almost all, most of the photons will follow or will do in the same similar fashion. And of course these are by experimental and later on of the theoretical too, okay. Hence, can I write down that energy of the incident photon, which is nothing but whatever we are actually writing here, H nu, is nothing but the summation of work function phi and maximum kinetic energy. So E equal to work function plus Ke max. Can I write down this? Can I write down this? That's what I am writing here. Okay, and anyway we know that work function W naught equal to H nu naught plus half m V max square. Understand this? This is nu naught, so you can write it as H nu naught plus half m V max square. Understand that point? So half m V max square equal to H into nu minus nu naught. Maximum kinetic energy is nothing but, so all these different kinds of the equations we call them as Einstein's photoelectric equations. All whatever the kind of, whether this format, this format, or this format, this format, whatever, all these kind of the equations we call them as Einstein's photoelectric equations. Okay, right. Now let's see how we can believe that this equation, whatever Einstein gave, right, in order to explain the photoelectric effect basing on quantum theory, how can we believe that this equation is proper and this equation is correct? Now let us see that, which means nothing but verification of laws of photoelectric emission based on Einstein's photoelectric equation. That's it, right? We got that earlier, this equation regarding this, isn't it or not? We got this equation. Now we have to verify this, right, whether this equation is proper or not. So on what basis we will go for this? Earlier we discussed about laws of photoelectric emission. That's it, right? For threshold frequency, stopping potential, instantaneous process, all this we have discussed it, right? So which has been formulated in a proper notation, I told you already. So if we verify those laws of photoelectric effect by using this Einstein's photoelectric equation, is it sufficient or not? So now that's what we are going to discuss here, verification of laws of photoelectric emission based on Einstein's photoelectric equation. Okay, right. Now let's look at this. Look at the first one. Look at the first one. The if nu is less than nu naught, then half m V max square is negative, which is not possible. Therefore, for photoelectric emission to take place, nu should be greater than nu naught. So let us discuss about that once. Okay. This is, remember, again I am telling you, this is basing on the quantum picture alone, and basing on that Einstein gave the equation, and now we are going to verify. Okay, regarding the intensity, what is what we are actually speaking about. This first one, let's start from the threshold frequency. Okay, if the frequency of the incident radiation is less than the threshold frequency, kinetic energy of photoelectrons becomes negative. That's obvious. Okay. Therefore, this has no physical meaning. So photoelectric emission does not occur below the threshold frequency. Are you getting the point there? So if that was not taken into account, look here, obviously it will be of the same kind. And you can ask me that, sir, how you are actually explaining this to be the proper way for explanation for that. Okay, look at the equation carefully. Ke max equal to h nu minus h t naught. That's it, right? Ke max equal to h nu. I'll write down the equation so that it will be clear. Of course, already it is here. Ke max equal to h nu minus h nu naught. The same equation I am writing instead of half mv max square. So I am calling it as Ke max. Same, nothing new. Okay, right. Now for photoelectric emission to takes place, kinetic energy of the electrons must be positive, which means on the left hand side, what you are actually watching here, this must be a positive value. That's it, right? Okay, then what we can clearly say that from there, nu should be greater than nu naught. That's it, no? When it can be positive, provided if h nu is greater than h nu naught. That's it, right? What do you mean by that condition? Nu should be greater than nu naught refers to this is what, right? That's what we are speaking about. Are we clear with this? So it proves that for photoelectric emission to take place from a metal surface for the given the frequency of incident radiation must be greater than the threshold frequency. If the frequency of incident radiation is less than the threshold frequency, then no photoelectric emission will take place. Of course, whatever may be the intensity of incident radiation or how long you incident the radiation, it doesn't depend upon that. Are we clear with this? Right. Now coming to the next one. Look here. It is since one photon emits one electron, so the number of photoelectrons emitted per second is directly proportional to the intensity of incident light. So number of photoelectrons emitted per second, photoelectron frequency. That's it, right? What we call that number of photoelectrons emitted per second? Current, right? Number of photoelectrons, electrons per second. Rate of flow of electrons is nothing but current, and that is nothing but proportional to the intensity of incident radiation. Are we getting the point here? Okay, right. Coming to the next one, half mv max square, which is nothing but the maximum kinetic energy, is directly proportional to nu, and h and nu naught are the constant. This shows that kinetic energy of the photoelectrons is directly proportional to the frequency of the incident radiation. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? Suppose, which means in the let's speak in the terms of the kinetic energy. The maximum kinetic energy of the electron increases with the frequency. That's it, right? In the graphs we have already seen. And the increase in intensity increase only the number of incident photons and not their energy. Only when you increase the intensity, we are actually increasing the number of photons alone, but not the energy. Hence, the maximum kinetic energy of the photoelectrons is independent of intensity of incident radiation. Are you getting the point here? Okay, so keeping that in mind, maximum kinetic energy of photoelectrons increases as frequency of incident radiation increases, which I have mentioned here. Half mv max square is directly proportional to frequency. Okay, since because look at the equation here, Ke max equal to h nu minus h nu naught. Maximum kinetic energy of photoelectrons depends on the frequency. That's it, no? Here you can notice there. Therefore, maximum kinetic energy of photoelectrons Ke max, which is nothing but increases as frequency of incident radiation increases. And remember that Einstein's equation do not involve representing any intensity concept of. Are we getting here? Is there any concept of intensity here? It only spoke about the frequency here. Okay, and maximum kinetic energy of emitted electrons is independent of intensity of incident radiation, which I have already seen in the previous graphs when we are discussing about the graphs. Okay, so the same explanation, right? Do we have any concept of intensity here? No way at all. Kinetic energy is entirely, maximum kinetic energy is entirely depending on the frequency alone here. Okay, right. Let's look at the last one. Photoelectric emission is due to collision between a photon and an electron. As such, there cannot be any significant time lag between the incidence of the photon and emission of the photoelectron. That is, the process is instantaneous. Of course, will be only 10 power minus 8 second delay alone. It will be off, even if you observe this. which means the process in the photo emission is absorption of photon of the light by an electron alone, in the entire thing. And when the photon is absorbed, emission of electron takes place instantaneously, whatever may be the intensity of. That's it, right? Hence that's what. Therefore there is no time lag, and thus this equation K max equal to h nu minus h nu naught is very successful even in explaining the time lag too, which is nothing but there is no time lag. That's what it is. Are we clear with this? Okay ma? Right.